I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, spilling my guts on some online forum because I found out the woman I was about to marry had been lying to me from day one. Honestly, I still can't wrap my head around it. We'd been together for 5 years, and I really believed she was the one. Smooth, charming, kind, she seemed perfect. But all that shattered the moment I picked up her phone last week. It was late at night, maybe 11:30 p.m. I'd been feeling restless, and I decided to grab her phone to check the weather forecast for the next day. Yeah, I know, I should have known better, but I didn't think I'd find anything suspicious. I just wanted to see if we needed an umbrella or not. Instead, what I saw made my stomach drop. There were dozens of messages between her and my best friend. I mean, not just casual chatter, full-on flirting, secret emojis, plans to meet up. All in a string of texts that had been deleted from her inbox but were still stored in the app's cache. I could see their messages, their little flirtatious exchanges, and a few photos, nothing explicit but enough to tell me they crossed the line. I felt my palms go cold and clammy. My heart started pounding so loud I thought everyone in the world could hear it. I wanted to scream, to throw her phone across the room, but I kept still. My mind was racing 1,000 miles an hour. How long has this been going on? How many lies have I been living through? Had she been cheating on me this whole time, or just lately? I looked at her messages again, trying to find some reason, anything, that could justify it, but I came up empty. I kept thinking about all the times she'd said she was tired after work, or that she needed girls' night with her friends. Every excuse she'd given, I now saw through it. She'd been hiding this for who knows how long, and I never saw a single sign. I didn't notice her texting late into the night or changing her passwords. I was blind. Or maybe I just didn't want to see it. I don't think I've ever felt so betrayed in my life. My stomach twisted like I was being punched from the inside. I clenched her phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. I was furious, at her, at my best friend, at myself for not noticing earlier. The worst part, the wedding was just 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from now, I was supposed to be saying I do to the woman I thought I knew. After what felt like forever, I turned her phone off and sat there in the dark, trying to process what I just discovered. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to feel relief or despair. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, to demand the truth right then and there. But I knew better. I needed a plan. I had to figure out what this meant for me, for us, and how I was going to deal with it. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at her side of the room. Every little thing looked different: her perfume on the pillow, the unmade sheets, her side of the closet. Everything now seemed tainted. I could feel my jaw tighten. I clenched my fists so hard I thought they might shake. I'd been played for a fool, and I was determined to do something about it. I kept asking myself, how much has she lied about? How many moments of intimacy, trust, and honesty have been fake? The worst part is, I've never felt so stupid. How did I miss the signs? Was I so blinded by love that I ignored the warning bells ringing in my head? I kept replaying everything: our conversations, her smiles, the way she looked at me, and it all felt like a cruel joke now. That's when I knew I couldn't just walk away without a plan. I needed her to feel the weight of her lies. I needed her to see I wasn't going down without a fight. I wasn't just going to let this slide. If she thought she could cheat behind my back and get away with it, she had another thing coming. The plan started forming in my head as I stared at her phone. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I had something more calculated in mind. But I'll tell you this: her betrayal will come at a cost. I'm not just going to walk away and pretend none of this happened. No, I'm going to make sure she regrets ever crossing that line. And that's where I am now, sitting here, sorting through the chaos in my mind, trying to decide what's next. I know I need to act, but I'm also afraid of what I might unleash. Still, I can't stay silent. Not anymore. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a knot in my stomach that refused to loosen. The whole night had been a blur of anger, confusion, and betrayal. I kept replaying that moment I found her messages, her words, her emojis, the way she'd hidden this from me. All of it felt like a punch to the gut every time I thought about it. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been living a lie for years. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't in a hurry to confront her. Not yet. I needed a clear head, a plan. So I started by going through her phone again, this time more thoroughly, looking for anything else that might give me leverage. I found more evidence, texts with her friends that hinted at her lying to me, plans she'd made without me, and even some messages to someone I didn't recognize. The pattern was there: deception, secrecy, betrayal. I could feel the anger building again, making my palms sweat. I clenched my fists so tightly that I almost thought I'd hurt myself. This wasn't just about the cheating anymore. It was about trust, respect, all the years I'd given her. And now, it felt like I'd been completely stupid. I decided I needed to gather more evidence just to be sure. I made sure her phone was backed up, then started going through her social media accounts. That's when I saw it, a picture she'd posted just a week ago, smiling, with a caption about how trust is everything. Yeah, that hit harder than any punch. She had been playing the part all along, pretending to be honest and faithful when she was nothing but a liar. I kept thinking, I need to show her I'm serious, that I've got enough dirt to take her down, that her lies won't stay hidden forever. But at the same time, I wasn't planning to rush into an angry confrontation. No, I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal slowly, carefully. I wanted her to realize I knew everything, and I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. My mind raced with ideas. I could go to her with the evidence, but that wouldn't give me the upper hand. I wanted her to come to me, to realize I was onto her, to see her scramble for excuses. So I decided I'd set a trap, something that would make her panic, make her sweat. I started manipulating her environment. I discreetly installed a hidden app on her phone that would log her messages and calls without her knowing. I also made a copy of her recent texts, just in case she deleted anything. I wanted to see what she'd say when she thought she was alone. I was careful, methodical, precise, everything I should have been all along but hadn't been. While waiting for her to stumble into the trap, I noticed she was acting weird. She was more on edge, fidgeting, avoiding eye contact. She'd catch herself staring at her phone or making an excuse if I asked her a question. That's when I realized she was starting to sense that I knew something. Good. That's exactly what I wanted. A few hours later, she went out to run an errand. I took the opportunity to snoop through her purse, digging around for anything that could give me more ammo. Her keys, her wallet, and what do you know? A receipt from a hotel near town paid for with her credit card. I felt a rush of cold satisfaction. She'd been seeing him, her secret lover, probably for weeks, maybe longer. That was the moment I knew. I was done waiting for her to admit it. I was ready to put my plan into motion. I needed her to realize I wasn't just going to roll over. I wanted her to feel the sting of betrayal, to understand that her lies had consequences. When she came back, I greeted her with a calm that was anything but. I looked straight into her eyes and I said, "We need to talk, now." Her face went pale and I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. That's exactly what I wanted. I'd set the trap and now I was going to see how she'd react. As I sat down across from her, I already had my next move mapped out. The truth was, I wasn't just angry. I was hurt, betrayed, and more determined than ever to make her pay. But I also knew this wasn't just about revenge. It was about clearing the air, about finding out how deep her lies ran, and making sure she understood that trust, once broken, isn't so easily repaired. The moment I told her we needed to talk, I could see her eyes darting around, trying to figure out what I knew. Her hands were trembling slightly, which was almost satisfying. She had been so confident, so sure she could hide this, but now it was clear she was starting to realize I wasn't as clueless as she thought. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "I found out about the messages, the hotel receipt, everything. How long has this been going on?" My voice was steady, but inside my stomach was twisting into knots. Her face went blank for a second, then she tried to brush it off, laughed nervously. "Oh, come on," she said. "It's not what you think." I cut her off before she could spin her usual lies. "Don't even bother, I've seen enough. You've been lying to me for months, maybe longer, and my best friend. You've been messing around with him behind my back. How long?" Her jaw clenched and she looked down at her hands. "It's not what you think," she repeated, softer now, a pleading tone mixed with guilt. "Things happen, it doesn't mean..." "Doesn't mean what?" I snapped. "That you're a liar, that you cheated on me, That you've been hiding this from me just before our wedding. You think I didn't notice how you suddenly started working late or going out with friends. You've been sneaking around this whole time." Her eyes welled up with tears. She looked so damn vulnerable, but I was too furious to feel sorry for her. I wanted her to feel what it was like to be betrayed, really betrayed. I leaned forward, my voice getting colder. "I want the truth now. How deep does the lies go? Are you planning to keep this going, or was this just a one-time mistake?" She hesitated, swallowing hard. Then with a trembling voice she finally admitted it was a mistake. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear I loved you." Stop. I cut her off. "You don't get to say you loved me while screwing around with my best friend. That's not a mistake, it's a choice." Her shoulders shook and she looked like she wanted to say more but didn't. I saw her grip her own hands tightly like she was trying to hold her composure. Deep down, I knew I had her cornered, but I wasn't done. I wanted her to understand just how much she'd hurt me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the evidence I'd collected, screenshots, the receipt, her secret messages. I slid them across the table to her. "This is what I found. All of it, and I'm not stupid enough to believe that's everything. I want to know how much more you've lied about, how many times you've cheated, lied, or hidden things. Because honestly, I don't even recognize the woman I wanted to marry anymore." She looked at the evidence, her face turning pale. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just confused. We'd been fighting and I was lonely." "Save it," I said sharply. "You think this is just a moment of weakness. I don't believe that. I think you planned this, you and him, and I want to know exactly what's been going on." She looked like she wanted to say something, but her voice failed her. Instead, she just kept staring down at the table as if the weight of her lies was crushing her. I felt my fists tighten again, not from rage now, but from the cold realization that I'd been betrayed so completely. I didn't even know who she really was anymore. I took a deep breath to steady myself. I'd already made up my mind. Actions needed to follow. I couldn't stay here and pretend we could fix this. No, I was going to show her that her lies had consequences. "Here, what's going to happen," I told her. "You're going to pack your things, you're leaving tonight. I want the keys, I want the ring, I want nothing else from you, and after that I'll handle everything else." Her eyes widened. "You're serious?" "Yes," I said. "You've broken my trust beyond repair. I'm done. You want to cheat, lie, and hide, fine. But I won't be part of this any longer. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." She looked like she wanted to argue, but the silence was deafening. I knew I had crossed a line, but honestly I didn't care anymore. She'd pushed me to the edge, and I wasn't going to be the fool she thought I was. I stood up, reached for her keys on the table, and calmly handed them over. "You can go now, and don't try to contact me. I need space to figure out what's next." As she grabbed her purse and hesitated, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally in control. I'd lost a lot, maybe everything, but at least I hadn't lost myself. That night, I packed her things myself, took her keys, and handed her a simple note: "Goodbye." I realized then, no matter how much it hurts, some betrayals cut too deep to fix. And in the end, the only thing you can do is walk away and rebuild. The next few days were like walking through a fog. I stayed busy, packing her stuff, cleaning out the apartment, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Every time I saw something that reminded me of her, a piece of jewelry, a sweater she'd left behind, my stomach clenched. It was like a punch to the gut every damn time. But I kept telling myself, this is for the best. She's not the woman I thought she was, and I deserve better. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was hurt. Deep down, I felt hollow, like the floor had been pulled out from under me. The trust was gone, shattered into pieces I didn't know how to piece back together. I'd poured so much into that relationship, and now I was left with nothing but the bitterness of betrayal. I'd never felt so alone, but I knew I couldn't let her get away with this, not without making her understand the full measure of what she'd done. I'd spent hours crafting a plan, something calculated, something that would make her regret ever crossing me. Revenge, yes, but also a way to reclaim my dignity. I reached out to my lawyer just to get an idea of my options. I wanted her to see I wasn't going to let this slide. When I called, I kept my voice steady even though inside I was seething. "I need to file for divorce," I told him, And I want to make sure I cover every angle. She's been unfaithful and I have the evidence. I want her to pay for this." My lawyer nodded, professional and calm. "We'll handle everything, but you also need to consider how you want the final interactions to go. Do you want to confront her directly or do you prefer to keep it legal?" I thought about it. Confront her directly? No way. I wanted her to see that I knew everything, that I was serious. I'd let her squirm just like she'd made me do. I decided to wait until I had everything in place, papers ready, proof secured, and then I'd confront her face to face. That night I sat on the couch staring at her side of the apartment. The silence was deafening. I remembered how we used to joke, how she used to laugh at my terrible dad jokes. Now, all I could feel was cold emptiness. The betrayal had ripped something apart inside me, and I didn't know if it could ever be repaired. The next morning, I set my plan into motion. I called her one last time just to tell her I was serious. "You need to leave tonight," I said. "Don't bother trying to contact me after this. I want you out of my life. I'll be filing for divorce tomorrow and I want the whole thing over with." Her voice cracked. "Please, can't we talk?" "No," I said firmly. "You had your chance. You made your choice. This is goodbye." She begged a little, but I put the phone down, knowing I had to stick to my guns. I was done playing nice. I'd already given her enough rope and she'd hung herself with her lies. That evening I waited for her to come home. When she stepped inside, I was already packed, sitting on the couch with the divorce papers in front of me. Her eyes widened when she saw them. "What's all this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Just the start," I said, my voice cold. "You're leaving tonight. You're not getting anything else, not this apartment, not my trust. I want my life back and I don't want to see you again." She stared at me for a long moment, then burst into tears. "Please don't do this. We can fix it." "No," I said, standing up. "You broke my trust and I'm not willing to keep pretending. You betrayed me and I'm ending it here." She reached out to grab my arm, but I pulled back and handed her the keys and the divorce papers. "Take these and leave. I won't be coming back." As she grabbed her purse and left, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd taken control finally. I'd cut out the poison, and for the first time in days I could breathe again. That night I filed the divorce papers. Sitting at my kitchen table, I realized something. I'd been too trusting, too naive. But I also knew that I'd learn from this. I would rebuild stronger and wiser. And the biggest lesson: never ignore the signs. If something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts and don't let anyone betray you and get away with it. Because in the end, the only person who truly has your back is yourself. The days that followed felt like a blur, almost surreal. I wasn't sure if I was numb or just exhausted from everything. The shock, the betrayal, the upheaval. Every time I caught sight of her empty side of the apartment or the unopened divorce papers I'd left on the table, a prick of anger jabbed me. But beneath that, there was this strange, overwhelming sense of relief. I'd finally taken back control, and honestly, it felt damn good. I spent hours reflecting, trying to piece together how I'd let it get this bad. How I'd missed all the signs, her late nights, the secretive texts, the way she'd suddenly become more distant. I'd been so caught up in the idea of us, in building this future, that I ignored the warning bells ringing in my head. But now, I knew better. I'd trusted her, and she'd thrown that trust away without a second thought. I also knew I had to do something about my own healing. I reached out to a counselor just for some support. It was strange to talk about all this out loud, but I knew bottling it up wouldn't help. Sitting there in that office, I finally admitted how deeply I'd been hurt. By her, by the betrayal, by myself for not seeing the signs earlier. During one of our sessions, I told her, "I feel like I've been played for a fool. I can't shake this feeling that I missed everything, like I was blind to the truth. But I also know I need to move on for my own sake." She nodded kindly. "Healing takes time, but being honest about your feelings is the first step. You're stronger than you think. This isn't the end, it's a new beginning." That was a little boost I needed. I started canceling plans, removing her from my social media, and blocking her phone number. I needed space, away from the lies, the pain, her voice. Every time I saw her name pop up on my screen, I felt my stomach turn, so I cut the cord completely. It was necessary. But even with all that, I couldn't help but think about her, about what she'd done and whether I'd ever really understand why. Was it just a fling? Was she unhappy? Or had she been planning this all along? The questions haunted me, but I knew I'd never get answers from her now. She made her choices, and I had to accept that. One thing I did realize, though, was how much I'd underestimated her. I'd always thought she was honest, loyal, someone who'd never do anything to hurt me. But now I saw her in a different light, someone capable of deception on a scale I'd never imagined. It made me angry, but it also made me cautious. I'd never let myself be so naive again. In the quiet moments, I started to think about what I truly wanted from here on. I decided I'd focus on myself, my work, my friends, my future. No more codependency, no more ignoring the small signs. I owed it to myself to be better, to learn from this nightmare. And then there was the matter of my plan for revenge, something I had kept simmering in my mind. It wasn't about petty retaliation. It was about making her see that her actions had consequences, that I was not someone she could just walk all over without repercussions. I wanted her to feel the loss, the regret, and I knew exactly how I'd do it. I spent a few nights crafting a calculated move, one that wouldn't be destructive, but would make her realize she'd lost more than just a fiancé. I wanted her to feel the sting of her own betrayal, to understand that her lies had come full circle. I'd be subtle but firm. I wanted her to know I was no longer the naive man she'd played. In the end, I decided I'd send her a letter, nothing angry, just cold and clear, telling her I knew everything, that she'd lost my trust forever and that she'd made her choice. No contact, no begging, just the truth on my terms. And I'd do it on my own time. That night, I sat at the desk, pen in hand, writing that letter. I told her I'd moved on, that she'd burned her bridges, and that the man she'd betrayed was better off without her. I sealed it carefully, knowing I'd send it when I was ready. It felt like the final act of control I needed, a way to close that chapter without letting her mess with my head anymore. I leaned back in my chair and looked around the empty apartment. It was strange. It still felt like her presence lingered, like a ghost I couldn't shake. But I also knew I had taken the first real step toward healing, for myself, for my future. I was finally reclaiming my life piece by piece. And that, I suppose, is the real lesson here. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again, because in the end, nobody can take away your strength unless you let them. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into rebuilding. I cleared out the last of her things, handed over the keys, and officially filed for divorce. Watching her drive away that night felt strange, like I was finally shedding a heavy weight I'd carried for too long. It wasn't just relief. It was a cold, hard acknowledgement that I had taken back control of my life. She'd broken it, but I was fixing it piece by piece. Every morning I woke up with a clearer mind. No more sleepless nights filled with doubts and questions. I started focusing on my work again, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and taking long walks just to breathe. The pain still lingered, but it was different now, less raw, more like a scar that would fade with time. I knew that healing was a process, and I was in it for the long haul. One day, I finally sent her the letter I'd written. It was simple, direct, and unemotional, just the facts, the truth she refused to face. I told her I knew everything about the affair, the lies, the betrayal, and that I was choosing to walk away. I explained that I didn't want to be part of a relationship built on deception. Then I sealed it, addressed it, and dropped it in the mailbox. That was the moment I felt truly free. No more games, no more hiding. I was done being a victim. I was finally the one in control. The betrayal had cut deep, but I refused to let it define me. Instead, I used it as a catalyst for growth. I realized I'd been trusting the wrong people, and from now on, I'd be more cautious, more discerning. Looking back, I see how far I've come. I've learned that sometimes the biggest lesson is realizing your own worth, that you don't need someone who lies and cheats to be happy. That self-respect comes from knowing your boundaries and walking away when they're crossed. And that true strength isn't about revenge. It's about rising above the pain and refusing to let it consume you. Ever since I cut ties with her, I've felt lighter, like I've finally closed the chapter on that nightmare and turned the page toward something better. I still have moments of anger, of sadness, but they're less frequent. Instead, I focus on future possibilities, on rebuilding trust in myself and learning to love again without the fear of betrayal. In the end, I want to tell anyone reading this, whoever might be going through something similar, that you're stronger than you think. That betrayal hurts, but it doesn't have to break you. You can choose to walk away, rebuild, and come out on the other side better than before. Never forget, your happiness and self-respect are worth more than anyone's lies or deception. So, I handed over the keys, filed the papers, and took my first real breath since all this started. It was the hardest thing I ever did, but it was also the bravest. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away from someone who doesn't deserve you. And in doing so, you find a new kind of freedom, one that's worth every bit of the pain it took to get there.